Hello, I saveloy. So can we go with that as a standard? Is it? I was a standard greeting. You might need to listen to the enthusiasts if you don't know what I'm on about there. But
we might need to embellish that one a little bit.
Yeah, so that's me speaking Essex. I've become fluent in Essex speak, and that's the only thing you need to do is oi saveloy and shout mate to people. So welcome along to Outdoor Gear Chat. I'll come back to that. I better tell people what they're listening to first of all. But I'll maybe stop recording and start again. No. So this hello. All right, I'm Wayne. I'm your host for Outdoor Gear Chat. And this is.
I'm Cathy, and I am one of the co-owners and directors of the Climbers Shop and also the Joe Brown shops in Snowdonia. And I am from Essex, which is why Wayne from the north is trying to talk my lingo and failing.
You claimed on that other podcast that I do that I think it was in comment afterwards that people in Essex did not say oi saveloy.
Then I got corrected by my 19-year-old niece. I stand corrected. So, Anyway,
a northerner knows Essex. Yeah, we're not here to talk about that. So, let's crack on. So it's season. We'll go with Netflix style. Season 2, episode 1. Outdoor Gear Chat. We are talking walking boots when size really matters.
Yeah, I mean, that could be saveloy as well, but essentially we are talking about walking boots, really, first and foremost. The magnificent world of walking boots and the science that protects your feet.
I like that. So I'm coming to your shop. I'm gonna buy a pair of boots. Where do we go with this? Say just want a pair of boots. Give me some shiny boots, Cathy.
Well, first of all, if you come in, you're going to be looking at a big wall of boots because we have a lot of choice, and we are also quite rare in that we offer almost 50-50 men's women's styles. So if there's a style and it's made in men's and women's, in the 3 key brands that we stock, Scarpa, La Sportiva and Boreal, we'll have it in men's and women's, and that's rock shoes, that's walking boots, that's mountaineering boots, and that's running shoes and approach shoes as well. So you will have a huge array to look at, but we also stock a range of sizes as well. We stock from UK size 3 right through to UK size 14.5.
Blimey, Charlie, that's a big piece. That's a big pair of feet, that, isn't it?
That's a big, that's some big plates there. Plates to meet feet. There we go. There's another little southernism there. We've also got kids boots, and they start from a UK junior size 9.5, so an EU 27. We also stock within those sizes both UK half sizes and European half sizes. So you can definitely find a pair of boots to fit in our shop.
I just reflecting on that. You must have like a vast underground cavern underneath the shop.
Honestly, I went to the Bodleian Library to have a look around once, and they were explaining that underneath there's great big corridors that link the Bodleian, the modern library, and the Radcliffe camera. And my daughter and I just had these visions of librarians on roller skates going between the three locations with piles and piles of books. It does feel like that, with walking boots under our shops. We've got huge storerooms, just acres and acres of boots. There's a lot. When it comes to stock take, it takes an awful lot of counting.
So you've got a fair selection. And what if somebody's new to walking boots? If we just take sort of that niche within everything that you just said, what are you going to be asking the customer as they come in?
Well, the key thing is we're going to ask them what they're going to be using their boots for, because everybody's got different needs, and there's so many different boots made now because there's so many different technologies and fabrics. They're almost made for different uses. So unfortunately, it might be, depending on your needs and what you do, if you walk across all seasons but you want something really light for the summer, but something that will take a cramp on in the winter, for example, you might have to get 2 different boots. Or we can explain the compromise that you'll need to make to get one pair of boots that will do both jobs, but there is always a compromise,
which is often cold wet feet.
Yeah.
Is it like, oh, they're going to be heavy?
Well, there's ways of mitigating that.
Yeah, indeed.
So you probably are going to get asked a lot of questions, and we would advise you to come in with lots of time, because it's really important to try boots on and just check how they feel around their foot, not just that they're long enough, but how they fit around the volume of your foot. So your instep, the length of your toes, around the narrow or the width of your heel. So yeah, we're going to be asking lots and lots of questions.
Because it definitely isn't, oh, they're shiny, I'm taking those. No,
and that's a really key point, actually, because we're kind of conditioned these days to buy our footwear on look. And walking boots do come in lots of groovy colours, but fundamentally they're a technical piece of equipment. So the boot that does the job best for what you've just explained to us could very well not be the colour that you were preferring. But when it's on your foot, you just got to close your eyes and make sure you buy the ones that fit the best for your personal foot shape, because all boots are made around a last, a metal foot shaped device. But some of the brands, like for example Scarpa, they've got 14 different lasts within their range. So that gives you an idea of how each different style is manufactured for foot shape. But of course, at the end of the day, everybody's feet are utterly unique. So that's why we suggest taking your time and trying on lots of different ones, because we can narrow it down to what boots will do the job for you, but the different lasts will feel very different on your foot.
And I guess coming back to a previous episode where we sort of we teetered on the edge of chunky thick walking socks. There's no good turning up in a pair of I don't know, cotton socks that you're going to be wearing with a suit to work, or for argument's sake, you need it's that sort of pairing, isn't it? That you're going to need something that's going to work again for like you say, for the conditions, for the time of year.
Yeah, and also to protect your feet. If you're walking with a heavy pack on your back, for example, the amount of pressure that's going to be going down through your feet is considerably more than if you didn't have a pack on your back. So your thicker sock will protect any sort of pinch points that might occur as a result of your foot expanding in width. If you're walking in hot climates as well, you can wear socks that will allow for that, perhaps make life a little bit more comfortable. You've got 125,000 sweat glands in your foot, so a wicking sock or a technical sock is really important in that, and it can feel counterintuitive. People do come in saying, I just want a boot to wear with thin socks because I get really hot feet, but you've also got 26 bones, 33 joints, and 107 ligaments and 19 muscles and tendons in your foot, and they all need protecting. So you need to have a good supportive piece of footwear around your foot, and your socks are like the cushioning, if you like, between the two, the extra protective layer. So yeah, it's worth listening to that podcast as well.
And it was great. It was
science in socks.
Yeah, of course. Well, that was the thing, wasn't it? It was the, when we were, I think, even you blew your own mind to a certain extent as far as the technology that's involved in making the sock up, doesn't it? And when we were talking about this, I spoke to a friend the other day about Injinji, so he just bought a pair of toe socks as well, and I said, "Oh, aren't they amazing? They're seamless." And he went, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, there's no seams in that sock that you're wearing." And he just went, he could see his face just change. And I George, he just went, "Oh my God, I'd never even thought about that. How do they do it?" I went, "It's witchcraft, mate. It's witchcraft."
Yeah, it is witchcraft.
So that, and I guess like you say, then you've got lighter boots depending on climate and conditions and all the rest of it, and then lighter socks that are all part of the mix as well. But yeah, absolutely crucial to get those right, because if you are moving for any length of time on your feet, it's going to be a pretty uncomfortable experience if you don't get that right, isn't it? If you're off to I don't know, climb Kilimanjaro in a I don't know, I was going to say heavy pair of winter boots and massive thick woolly socks, it's probably not going to be the right thing for you. Or going up into the Cairngorms in the middle of winter in a pair of what I always wear, the Innovate Gore-Tex boots. That's not going to work either, is it? It's So just back to the technology thing, there's going to be even more technology in the makeup of the boot as well, isn't it? And it's always that quandary I have about waterproof or not waterproof as well. So how do you get around that sort of conversation
Well,
or
I think
challenge?
the key thing, much like when we were discussing gloves, actually, people talk about waterproof gloves, people talk about waterproof boots, but there is no such thing as a waterproof boot. You've got a great big hole at the top that you've got to put your foot in, but there are ways of keeping water out. The best and most effective way is to actually wear a gaiter. Because that covers the top of your boot. It's all made out of waterproof fabric. You zip it up your calf. You can pop your waterproof trousers over the top of that, so no one need know. Fundamentally, they actually not only keep water out, but they do keep grit and gravel out as well, because that can drop down into your boot and cause all sorts of problems. It can even wear your boot from the inside out if you don't clean them and maintain them. You can wear waterproof socks. We sell some really good waterproof socks, actually. But once you start bringing that waterproof element in, the breathability element diminishes considerably.
Yeah. And then you get, like we said in the other stuff, you get sweaty, horrible feet.
Yeah, you can end up with trench foot if you're not careful. Minging feet after an ultra. When you look at your feet and you think, oh, I think I should
exactly. They're and the honking. Yeah.
So you've got also waterproof liners as well. Probably one of the most well-known one is Gore-Tex, but there's lots of other proprietary ones come under different names, do very, very similar job. And that is actually a completely waterproof sock that's built into the boot inside. You can't see it, it's hidden in between the lining and the outer.
Yeah.
And that can do a very good job of keeping the water out for you as well. But if you look at the tongue of the boot and how it's constructed, the height of where that tongue comes up to, that's going to show you how much water that you could walk through, if you like, because once you get above that level, the water's just going to seep into the top. So if you are looking at a decent pair of boots and you want them to keep out as much water as possible, check the design and make sure that the lacing holes are outside of that tongue as well, because that means that there's not a place that water can come in then either. You can spray your boots as well, give them an extra boost. If they're fabric, if they're leather, you can use a waxing product, a proofing product on them as well, and that all helps keep out water. There's days definitely when you're not going to keep the water out on a standard Lakeland or Welsh sunshiny, liquid sunshiny day. But one of the biggest cause of wet feet actually is walking through wet grass, because the pressure of the water can literally push the water through. If you've got a Gore-Tex liner, for example, the water can't physically get through Gore-Tex. So that wouldn't happen unless the membrane has been punctured in some way, and actually with gravel and getting inside your boot, it can wear the boot from the inside out. Or your proofing really is your best defense, really. And whether that's your spray, whether that's your paint on, that's the best thing to use. One thing that we do still sell, but we sell in smaller and smaller quantities, and we do get occasionally asked for it, is dubbing, which is it was used back in the day as a leather softener, and it's still brilliant if you've got a full grain leather item like saddles or things like that you need to soften. But it's not ideal to use it with modern leathers or on modern boots, because it's oil based, so it can react with glues. So without meaning to, you can be wandering along and the sole of your boot falls off, and
you're just damaging the integrity.
It's not covered by any form of guarantee. So use either a Granger's or a Nick Wax product is the best option there. And those have all been developed specifically for modern leathers and modern boot constructions. And they come in a spray form or a paint on form. And that's the best option there.
And then, so you're talking about the difference between fabric and leather boots there. And I think years ago I bought a pair of braces. I think it was from the Climber shop. And they lasted me for absolutely ages, and they were an amazing boot. But now I've got some Salomon fabric ones as well. As I love the Innovate, the Gore-Tex, the high top basically. I love those. Do the majority of my walking in those. And anyway. but yeah. So why? What would be the difference? Is that just a person, a personal thing, or is there certain conditions that would warrant the difference?
Yeah, fabric and leather is always a big question, really. Fabrics are definitely softer, lighter, because of the fabrics that they're made from. They can also more readily give you a vegan option if you prefer not to use leather products. But I think sometimes if you're looking at it from an environmental point of view, it's possible that some of the fossil fuel based fabrics perhaps don't have as good an environmental footprint as quality leather products. So it's a give and a take on that one. If you're trekking in an arid area that's going to be hot, then a non-waterproof lined fabric boot is definitely going to be the way forward. That'll be brilliant. It won't last as long, just because of it's made with lighter fabrics. It'll be made with a calf leather, if you like, or sorry, a split grain leather, which is like a suede. So it's only using part of the hide to make that, to make it lighter, if you like. But they're very, very comfortable. Leather's still considered to be the finest material used in walking boot manufacture, but the hide origin, the age of the animal, the rearing of the animal, the care of the animal, and the tanning process are all really key to the quality of the boot that you're going to have at the end. Meat's a byproduct, leather is a byproduct of the meat industry. So for that reason, calf leather is very popular because that's from a younger animal, but it is thinner. If amphibio leather is from an older animal, and it's thicker, and it is harder to come by, so it's more expensive. If you look at a leather boot and it says it's made with full grain leather, that means the whole of the thickness of the hide has been used. So it's going to be really robust. It's going to take punishing if you're walking through a lot of scree and rubble and in rocky terrain. It's going to really cope with that very, very well, as long as you keep them nourished and protected, because like any natural product, basically, it needs looking after. And then they'll perform for years and years and years, well looked after. Some tanning processes, I think Scarpa HS12 leather, they actually impregnate a silicone into the leather. So the leather itself is more waterproof than a standard leather would be. And it just means it absorbs less water and it will dry more quickly. Right. A key thing about all leather boots is they need to be dried slowly and naturally. Drying rooms and
not stuck on a radiator or anything.
No, because what happens is, well, A, it's not good for the glues, but B, if leather dries too quickly, it will crack. That's when you see cracked leather. That's why it's basically dried too quickly. So once it's cracked, you've either got to keep loading in wax. Basically, it's going to take a lot more to keep it working well.
Okay. And just out of interest, have manufacturers started labeling footwear with whether it, with sustainability messages, like you were saying, whether it's vegan friendly and so on as well?
Yeah, it's happening slowly. Probably the vegan friendly is popping up first. In our rock boot range, we're seeing eco rock boots coming through. Walking boots, a little bit slower, but all of the brands that we deal with are actually making, they're starting with a broader sustainability message, if you like. So they all make the boots to the best of their ability. So basically they will looked after, they'll last a very long time. So they'll stay out of landfill for as long as possible. That's rule one. All of them source the majority of their raw materials within the EU. So whether that's Italy, whether that's Spain, that they're manufactured in, the vast majority of their raw materials are manufactured in or are sourced in the EU still. Some have got, they've just smothered the factory roofs in PV panels to offset their carbon, their energy usage. Right. And there are new eco materials appearing. Pebax is a plant-based plastic used in ski boot outers. Evolo suede has a much greener footprint, and then there's green line polymers that are actually made from castor oil plants rather than fossil fuels. So they're coming through. but not quite as swift as the clothing side of the industry. I would hazard to make a statement there.
I was going to say, there are, I think, a few footwear brands that do it using recycled plastics, for example. I think Vivo, that do like the barefoot style running stuff, I think have started on those, haven't they? But yeah, I guess it's a bit easier because they are minimalist shoes anyway, aren't they? So whereas with again, a boot, it needs to be, like you said, a bit more robust, doesn't it?
Well, not just the upper either. You've got the sole unit. But also you've got the midsole, which is the bit you can't see, but is actually sort of like the engine room of the boot. That's what gives your boot its rigidity and its support, and it's that midsole and what it's made out of that will determine how many sort of rocks you can feel through the base of it and how much ankle support it will give you as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on that you can't see, and whether that's nylons. In days of old, it used to be steel shank, but in modern day walking boots, it's lighter products. But there's a lot of science going on there that you just physically can't see inside your boot.
And I was going to, coming back to your point about crampons as well. It's, I guess, the rigidity of that base then is going to determine whether or not it's going to be a good idea to stick a crampon on it or not, I guess.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we do have customers who've come in the shop and been sold a pair of boots saying that they are crampon compatible and they're not. They do need to be quite, surprisingly stiff. And the reason for that is you don't want your crampon falling off. That's just a situation you don't want to have to deal with. If your boot bends, the crampon doesn't bend with it, it will just fall off. It's metal versus rubber, if you like. So you do need to be very careful. As a general rule, if you're buying your boots that are apparently crampon compatible from a shop that doesn't sell crampons, you probably don't want to bother. Go to a shop that sells crampons and crampon compatible boots, because it's not just that stiffness. And actually you could buy, if I bought a pair of boots as a size 6 and you bought the same pair of boots, walking boots, as a size whatever, I don't know, size 11.
Go for 11.
Oh god, that was a guess, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's 11. Yeah.
Size 11. We could actually have the same boots that could be crampon compatible, but because your feet are that much bigger, there's that much more leverage, they would more likely walk out of the crampon. That all needs to be taken, boot size needs to be taken into consideration, and then the footprint of the crampon across the sole of the boot as well, because you could have a very broad sole, but the crampon's quite narrow. So if you're using your crampon on ground that isn't completely snow, it's rocky as well, that gives you a very unstable platform.
And there's a lot of twisting and all sorts going on then, isn't there?
Yeah. So there's a lot involved, and sometimes we have customers come in, we will tell them, unfortunately, this isn't, and this is why. But you could look at putting spikies on if we'll talk through what they're wanting to do. It might be they're going into situations where they don't even need a crampon, and a spiky would work. But until we talk to people and have that conversation, we don't know. So
you don't know. And again, I guess I know, obviously we're going to say this because you do in-person stores, but better to get that in person rather than just shopping around on the internet, because it's a fair old investment with the price of footwear at the moment as well, isn't it? We've seen over recent years that the price has just climbed and seems to have done over the last 12 to 18 months for obvious reasons. It's probably not going to stop anytime soon either. So if you're thinking of buying boots, buy them sooner rather than later. But no, you're absolutely right, it's a major investment, and I think boots are probably the most important investment you're going to make. I mean, if you've got a jacket that doesn't fit quite right and it's a bit leaky, you can just cope with it. You can manage.
If your boots aren't fitting, you've got blisters or you've got hot points or pinch points, it's just miserable. And we want to get that right for people, and it's something we pride ourselves on. We've got foot measuring devices in store. It might be you're not the size you thought you were. Your high street shoe size is likely to be different to the walking boot size that you require. Sometimes that's quite a difficult conversation to have with customers.
It's weird. It is though, isn't it? I know.
But if you think about it, you need that extra space to accommodate your toes for when you're coming downhill. You need that extra space to allow for your feet to expand when they get hot. And if you're walking over a long period of time, or particularly if you're backpacking over days, then your feet will expand. And if you just take your sock off and put your foot on the floor now and just leave it lightly touching the ground and then rock all of your weight onto it, you can see the width of your foot expand just simply by standing on it. So if that's happening repeatedly day after day with a heavy pack on your back, you need to have boots that will allow for that extra space. So that's why often the pair of walking boots that feels the most comfortable isn't necessarily the size that you came in anticipating that you needed to buy.
Yeah, interesting point. And again, I keep harping on about this one, but the socks thing, if you're wearing bigger socks than you would normally, you're going to need a pair of bigger boots, aren't you? You're talking about like the longer distance stuff, and I guess being out on the mountains, being on rocky terrain and everything as well. What about ankle support? How do you go about thinking, well, I do need a bit or a lot or whatever?
A lot of one common thing is I don't want something high around my ankles. That's a comment that we get quite a lot, and that's completely understandable. Actually, how high a boot comes up your ankle isn't the key determiner in the amount of support that boot's going to give you. You need to have obviously some ankle protection, particularly if you are in a rocky area and scree. It saves your ankles getting scraped. It'll protect them. But the key support for your ankle comes in that rigidity of the boot and the robustness of the boot, and that midsole is the key thing. So if you've got a well-made boot, and part of that will be making sure that the midsole is strong and secure, and it's that which gives you your ankle support. The height of the boot and how it comes around and how it's laced up is key. Lacing actually is it is a voodoo art. It's an art form. You wouldn't believe how many people come in and just maybe it's because you're in a shop and you think, oh, I'll just try it on, I'll just lace it and that's it, that'll do. But actually it's critical, particularly in our shops, because we're going to probably suggest you go up the stairs, you go down the ramp, and just try out your boot and how it feels, because lacing is absolutely key. Start from your toes all the way up from your ankle, even if you've been wearing your boots a long time. If you've got some customers come in and they've got achy arches of their foot after they've been walking, and that can be due to lacing, and that can be on a pressure point. You can lace around that, no problem. Some people have a very sore point on the front of their ankle where the knot pushes in, or the front of the boot pushes in, and there's ways to lace around that as well, and we can show you all those in the shop. And actually there is a piece on our blog actually about how to lace your boots that explains all of those different lacing methods.
And then shoes are the same, aren't they? I know trainers, for me it was a huge revelation for me discovering that, which on reflection you're like, why did I not know that before? But so heel slipping is another one with the like sort of the lower shoes, isn't it, where it can slip off the back, and again there's another lacing technique to sort of counter that. It's incredible stuff, and again can make or break your day if it's right or wrong for whatever reason.
Big time. And actually one thing is, this is a lesson I learned the hard way: carry a spare lace. If you throw in for the sake of a couple of quid, I can't remember how much a pair of laces cost, but it's like a couple of quid, just carry them in your rucksack. They take up no space, they take no weight. But I think I was on like mile 23 of a 26-mile day, and my gaiter, actually, the little metal clip on the front, it just sawed through the lace of my boot. So I literally had 3 miles left. But over the terrain that I was going to be going over, if I hadn't, or if my mate actually, because I didn't have a spare, if my mate hadn't got a spare and given it to me, I would have been absolutely scuppered.
Like literally hopping across.
I would have had a foot full of blisters and a boot full of crud and bog and mud. It would have just been, So I've actually kept, the lace doesn't match and I've forced down all of my girly tendencies to have matching laces, and I've kept it there as a lesson to myself.
All
To always
right.
carry
No
a spare
way.
lace.
Odd laces just for that reason. They're brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah,
I tend to carry some paracord for similar reason,
yeah,
because
yeah,
it's got and again,
exactly.
if you're carrying a lace, then it's got all sorts of multiple uses aside from
Yeah.
being a lace, hasn't it? You can tie stuff
Oh
with it.
yeah.
So I do
Yeah.
tend to carry paracord for the same reason, because
Yeah.
I have been in a long run where my lace popped on my trainer, and I'm just like, brilliant. Well, I can't.
Yeah.
It's going to take me a long time to get back now from where I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
which with it, like you say, for the sake of £3 or whatever, is not
Yeah.
isn't yeah, it's not a
One
great
one of
amount
those
of weight
lessons
or
you've got to
cost.
learn. Yeah, for
Yeah,
it to
well,
stay
yeah,
with you.
yeah, and then breaking boots in. Then should I be able to go out and do like you said, a long day without really breaking my boots or shoes in?
It's possible. I have done it by accident.
Yeah. Wouldn't
But it's
recommend it. Is that what you're saying?
certainly
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
recommended. No, 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 no. In days of old, the leathers were super thick, the boots were super chunky, and it was a case of getting the leather to mold around your foot. And once it did that, they were amazing. They were fantastically comfortable, but it was quite a process to go through. These days, with technology and modern fabrics, boots tend to mold to your foot a lot more readily.
Right.
So you don't need to do the full breaking in process. However, what we always recommend is if people buy boots from us, whether it is in the shop, we always advise them to take them home, wear them around the house, because once you've worn them for a couple of hours, you get a much better feel. As long as you don't wear them outside and they've got all the tags attached to them still, it's not a problem. We can swap the sizing for you and just dial that fit right down. If people are buying online, again, please try them indoors. Make sure they're absolutely right for you. Do all of that lacing thing, try them with your rucksack on going up and down the stairs, get your feet nice and warm so you can really just make sure they're absolutely right for you. And then once you're sure, head out on some short walks and then build the distance up, and that's the best way to guarantee no issues at all. If you want to increase the rate that the boots fit to your foot, you could go through a walk through wet grass, get the boots really wet.
Right.
They'll mold to the shape of your foot really quickly, but make sure you dry them naturally, and that works a treat as well. But these days, generally speaking, unless you're looking at a heavier duty mountaineering boot, a standard good quality walking boot will not need a huge amount of breaking in at all.
Yeah, I remember. It just brings back memories of me. I remember in Air Cadets, and then in Territorial Army, as was Army Reserve, sitting in a bath of warm water, so that the boot would mold around my feet before. Yeah, but then I think again, like I said, I bought the Salomon ones and pretty much went up Helvellyn straight out.
Yeah.
Sorry, not your shop yet. That one wasn't, but yeah, straight out of the stop and up Helvellyn, and then. What else? Oh, the pricing is another huge one. When we've talked about it briefly and said it is going to be a big investment, but do you get what you pay for? I guess is the question that everyone's going to ask.
You really, 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 really do. A lot of these boots that we stock, and the walking boots in particular, they're still handmade. They're made in the ones that are made in Italy, the ones that are made in Spain. A lot of them are handcrafted, and it's that craftsmanship, how long the boot is kept on the last for it to gain that shape, so it maintains that shape as well. If you buy a pair of cheaper boots, you'll notice after really not that long at all, they just kind of start collapsing in on themselves. They visibly look very, very different to how they did in the shop when you bought them. With a good pair of boots, of the ones of the caliber that we stock, I've got some Scarpa fabric boots that, oh God, I don't know how many. I've done probably a couple of 1,000 miles in them. The sole's still going well. There's no sign of cracking. There's no sign of any stitching coming undone. They've been abused. They've been through bogs, they've been over rocky terrain, they've been used for all sorts of things that is probably not advisable as far as the manufacturer is concerned, but they're still going, and they've got, I keep thinking, oh, you know, I have had these a long time, maybe I'll change them, and each time I go out in them I just think, well, there's actually nothing wrong with them. I just carry on using them until they literally fall apart. There's no reason to buy any others just yet. I use them for as long as possible.
Well, and yeah, and I think, as we said before, then you've got all the memories within that, as well as the practicality of going, I don't need to pay for a new pair of boots. And that, I think that's the thing. It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Like you're saying, if they're handcrafted, then there's the potential for them to be repaired by a cobbler or something. If something does go a bit wrong with it, it's you know, it's not a massively challenging thing to sort some stitching out or whatever.
No, any of your high street cobblers can sort out the stitching. If you want them resold, it's highly likely that can happen as well. You probably want to send them to somewhere like Lancashire Sports Repairs, who specialise in outdoor products. And in most cases, if it's a known brand, they're able to tell you if they can put the exact same sole unit on the bottom. So actually, just as an aside, this is how sad my husband and I used to be back in the day. We'd go out for a walk and we'd look at the different designs of or footprints in the mud, and we could actually tell.
Spot what footwear
had been out walking. Sunday afternoon activity.
Well, living the high life, Cathy.
Oh yeah. What a day to be alive. Yeah.
No, it is one of those in-house geeky things, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, because the sole unit is really critical, because you've got different rubber compounds that are used. You've got different lug designs as well. So some will be designed for wet and boggy terrain, some will be designed for rocky terrain. Some will be harder wearing than others, and sometimes you'll find those hard wearing soles are actually pretty slippy on wet ground, and you just need to give them a bit of
a better placing of your foot.
Slightly lichenous wet rock is
the
equivalent of, is as bad as ice.
I know I've had a few incidents with wet slate recently, coming off styles where I thought I put my foot down and it was nice, and then next minute I'm on my backside at the bottom going, what happened there? Brilliant. And then we last point, I think. So we're sort of running out of time already, amazingly. Well, not amazingly, because it goes like this fast every time. But how can I make my boots last longer? And you've mentioned a couple of bits and pieces around this, but so using nick wax products and so on to prolong the outer. And I think you did mention in passing about grit getting on the inside, and that's it's cleaning them properly, isn't it? Effectively rinsing them out.
Yeah, it is. There's some really good tips actually on our Joe Brown Outdoor Academy website that links to the Scarpa website, the La Sportiva website, the Boreal website, that all explain the best way to clean your boots. I have to confess that I'm the world's worst. I come in and the boots generally go on the boot rack because I'm probably just about to have to cook dinner or go out and pick somebody up or sort something out. So I have to confess I'm the world's worst at cleaning my boots. However, if you do clean them, they will reward you by lasting a very long time. There's products you can buy from Granger's and Knitwax that will actually be will clean your boots. We actually had a customer come in a few weeks ago, and she'd got tar on the soles of her lovely new boots, which she'd come in and bought her new boots, and she was overjoyed with them, and came in, she's like, I've got tar on them, what can I use to get off? And it's not going to work with the work against the glues. And chap who works for us, Paul Cairns, he's unbelievably knowledgeable about stuff like this, and he just gave her a list of things that she could use to get the tar off. So if you've got boots that you've got a particular problem with, it's worth just seeking out advice, because sometimes you just the obvious solution might not be the best to use.
Yeah, and that's why I love shops like yours that do give out that knowledge freely as well, because you want to continue prolonging life. It's part of the customer service thing, isn't it? Where you might walk into other shops, other retailers, and they'd be like, well, no, just flog you a new pair or something like, or not give that same level of service anyway.
Yeah, it's really important
Nice.
to us that people get to use their products for as long as possible. I mean, basically our outdoor products, they're very, very technical. Their environmental footprints, generally speaking, are not that brilliant. The best thing we can all do is buy once and buy well, and keep those items out of landfill for as long as possible.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, should we leave it there on this one? So we've done, walking boots. I know we mentioned other footwear throughout, but I'm sure we'll come back to those other footwears in the near future. So that was When Size Really Matters, season 2, episode 1. So, and we'll be back again shortly with trad climbing gear.
We will, and you can find out more information on all of the ranges that we stock at www.climbers-shop.com, and you can find lots of knowledge about climbing footwear or walking footwear at www.joebrownoutdooracademy.com, and you just need to remember that happy feet mean happy adventures.